Drilling fluids touch just about everything in the drilling process. We're here to deconstruct the drilling process and drilling fluid concepts to provide a deeper understanding of our industry. In each episode, we'll share information, talk to interesting people, and maybe share a few stories along the way. Welcome to the Flowline, a production of AES Drilling Fluids, brought to you by Matt Offenbacher and Justin Gauthier.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Flowline. Matt Offenbacher here as co-host as always. Matt, I think it's been a while, but I would love to get an Astros update. I feel like we've just been so busy doing other things, talking about this, that, and the other. And but man, baseball's in full swing. What's happening in the world?
Well, I mean, a lot of ups and downs. I feel like the Astros always start out with such a slow start. I mean, not nowhere near as terrible as last year, but just like they seem to play really well against good teams and then awful against really bad teams. So, it's just been kind of a roller coaster, although the bats are kind of coming alive. It's been a little mixed, but it's a long season. I'm excited to see a couple of people develop, but you're also starting to see some injury issues and some of those things that make you nervous. Everything seems to have to go right. If you want to make a good run, it's not just you have to play well, it's that people have to stay healthy, and there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. But yeah.
No, it's well, hopefully they're not in the ditch and they're riding on pavement, but just maybe a little bumpy.
Yeah, I mean, so the interesting thing is they haven't played any divisional games. So
really,
in light of or not any, they haven't played many. And so, like, standings in the division are still totally up for grabs because nobody's really, they haven't really played a ton, and they will soon. So, there's that element. And then, it's been kind of a strange season. Lance McCullers, who'd been injured for such a long time and feel really bad for him, he came back, he did a start and went 3 2/3. Looked, reasonably good, but pitch count and everything. And then he just, he didn't have it. I think he was maybe tipping his pitches or something. He got rocked the other day. And I mean, going to the internet, social media was really, really rude to him, horrible. Said things to his family, made some threats, whatever. And just something that this world has no place for, especially for what a stand-up guy he is.
That's crazy. So why do people get so emotionally connected to where they feel the need to make threats and do that? Is it just trolling, or is it people genuinely have this hatred if their player goes wrong? And are they betting and it screwed their bets or something?
It could be any number of things, right? The
internet seems so crazy to me.
The internet brings people with completely out of whack priorities out of the woodwork. Just as much as I like to believe I'm a diehard, I don't think I've ever wished ill of somebody in that way. And certainly I realize these people are also human beings, right? So
they're not machines or robots to be programmed to pitch. There's all kinds of factors that go into how well you're doing.
Anyways, so I was kind of bummed out by a lot of that over the weekend. But
did you at least go support his coffee shop?
I'm there every Saturday.
Okay. So at least he's got one true fan that's not gonna, take money out of his pockets or hate on him on the internet.
No, well, we love him in person and on the internet.
It's good.
And I mean, just like I said, everything I know about the guy is that he's a stand-up person, and I've met him a number of times just at his coffee shop or wherever, and he's always been incredibly nice to my kids and incredibly nice to me, and just been patient and taken the time, which a lot of those guys are busy and have better things to do. And
that's awesome. What's the name of the coffee shop, real quick?
Maven. So Maven, there's one in the Toyota Center, there's one in a hotel, but this one's sort of standalone. It's right by my house, but they do coffee and breakfast tacos and stuff in the morning, and brunch, really good brunch. And then they slide the coffee bar over and it becomes a cocktail bar at night with small plates. So you can try a bunch of different things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of bougie, but anyways,
Gotta check it
Big
out.
fan.
The Maven. If you're ever in Houston, go check it out.
Yes.
With that being said, Matt, let's go ahead and finish up the series on the AADE papers, the authors. And if you're watching on video or if you're obviously listening, you've noticed there hasn't been another voice, but we are so lucky to have Matt as the author and co-host to discuss the paper that he helped write. Matt, why don't you go ahead, kick it off, and share to the audience what you ended up reporting on.
Yeah, this paper was done with ConocoPhillips and a company called JagTech. And JagTech has designed a sort of high-powered magnet system that helps filter fluid and remove magnetic debris. And the interesting thing for us sort of connecting the dots is when we would do a lot of tool teardowns and they would say, hey, what is this stuff? We would run X-ray diffraction, we would run X-ray fluorescence, and it would almost always be metallic debris. And the question was, did the tool sort of tear itself apart, or was this in the fluid or what have you? Because generally it was, it's the mud's fault. Well, what we found through using these high-powered magnets is, without a doubt, there is a lot more magnetic debris in drilling fluid than people want to believe. And a lot of it's coming from the casing. That was one sort of, by running X-ray fluorescence and sort of getting the metallurgy of what's packed off in tools and coming off these magnets. And what was really fascinating, in essence, was you had your regular ditch magnets, which we've talked about on the podcast before. And then downstream of that, you would have this high-powered magnet box thing, and it was still pulling like 100 pounds of debris a day.
That's crazy.
And what was even more interesting, you could see the difference between drilling like a 6 3/4 hole, where you have a lot more buckling and that sort of thing on smaller pipe, versus like an 8.5-inch hole, like the amount of debris. And so just the effects on tool life and that kind of thing. It was like, gee, if this can save you one trip, it's probably paid for itself.
Yeah.
So I mean that's sort of the crux of it was, I mean the awkward thing for us has been that we advocate for these things. I'm surprised directional companies aren't more outspoken, frankly.
So, it's interesting you say that. Actually, sort of some backstory on JagTech. One of my a good buddy connected to me with them, and they were looking, because they're a Norwegian company, and they're looking to sort of figure out how to get into the U.S. land market. And so I just hopped on a call and chatted, and the first thing I talked about was like, hey, reach out to the directional companies, because they were, trying to figure out how to penetrate the market. And so I suggested that, or drilling contractors and stuff like that. And, they've done a good job of building relationships with folks and getting it, on rigs like ours. But yeah, like to your point, it was part of the sort of thought was like, if I was a directional company, I'd jump all over this kind of stuff. And, so anyway, and who knows, maybe they are talking to some folks, but, nonetheless, it's surprising. Even just sort of the old school magnets that you'd throw in the possum belly, they collect a decent amount of debris, but the amount this stuff collects is crazy. And so, Matt, I'm curious, like, is this something that is and I we don't, not a lot of times, have visibility on how much of this is being deployed, but do you think that it's something that is going to continue to evolve, or do you think that we're kind of at a point of like, okay, this is a problem that we've solved, or as an industry? Now, hopefully, we shouldn't have to worry about metal debris. Like, where do you think we are in that sort of evolution of cleaning up the fluid on surface like that?
I mean, the answer is I don't know, just because it's sort of frustrating. Like, their high-powered magnet systems are not new. And I would think, offshore, this was an easy one, right? The relatively low cost. The design of this one in particular is it's got 9 pairs of these high-powered rod magnets, and they sit in a box, and basically you just pump fluid into it, and it has to fill up the box to flow out. So all the fluid has to pass by. They've got some angle iron in there to like create some eddies and divert flow, so you get a ton of exposure.
Right.
And then you pull them out, and they're not too heavy. And they've got these sort of paddles. You just pull it down, debris drops off. You can weigh it. You can keep track of it.
The cleaning part, that to me is huge. Sorry, finish your thought, but I just, as
No, finish your thought. I think we're on the same page here. Please go ahead.
I would just say the feasibility of it for a rig hand to be able to use it, and then to be able to collect the amounts. I know we did a little study way back when with a customer, and we were trying to figure out, how much metal was being pulled per hour, and then basically the drilling engineers or the operator would then figure out like how much wear is actually happening, but it was just very clunky, and it was just not great data. And so and that was always the problem, is they would try and weigh it on location. It's like, well, did we collect it all, and did we clean it properly, and so on and so forth. And so the cleaning part, and it's funny, I think I shared this story one time, but cleaning magnets, there's a lot of times where I remember pressure washing them, or like taking gloves and trying to get it off without slicing your hands up. So again, from an HSE perspective, obviously they've solved that problem. And if you ever go to spray a ditch magnet off that has debris in it, don't do it on top of the mud tanks, because then it goes back in. I've experienced that before, but nonetheless. Anyway, just wanted to touch on the sort of the cleaning and the collection piece, because if you can collect it, weigh it, and figure out how much debris is there, it gives you a much better idea of where the wear is, where it's coming from, and ultimately how much your casing is, or pipe, or whatever it is that you're measuring.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. There's literature out there showing you can have 3-5% casing wear. When people have bothered to run like a 64 arm caliber. It's a lot of metal, and especially on land where if we don't lose mud for a while, that mud just goes back and forth. So you have this opportunity for all that debris to accumulate, and then add that to just magnetic tools downhole. Think of like, we had one particular episode where we kind of got into it about a directional company making a bunch of claims about our mud, and a lot of those issues appeared to be an upper torquer just inducing a very powerful electromagnet.
Yeah.
And it was being the filter. It was taking all the magnetic debris and jamming up the tool. And, MWD signals, if you want to do certain logs, like a dedicated NMR run, normally you do a magnet run, but here you could, just filter out the fluid.
Yeah.
And so keeping it clean is sort of good for everyone. But it is shocking how much stuff you leave behind. And not only that, but, this stuff's abrasive. Granted, it's a lot finer particles. Your ditch magnets will get the big stuff. This is picking up real fine stuff. It looks like a sludge. But, there's a lot more to be taken out. And I would say that in general, like, none of it's good. So I think the gist of the paper was just, one, the surprise at how much was actually retrieved. Two was just the principles of design to have something that you could basically sit on a rig, bolt together in less than an hour, and start cleaning up fluid. And then three, some of the lessons learned, like how often you should clean it to make sure that you get maximum recovery, and some of those kinds of things. And ultimately, I would hope that folks would consider something like this for any of their wells, because it's dumb iron. There's no parts to break or anything like that. And the potential savings from protecting a tool or, that kind of thing could be big. It's low cost, potentially high reward.
Yeah. Have you seen, or has anyone shared data showing, since using the magnets, they've seen an X% reduction in tool failures, or is there any like really good data out there, public?
Nothing public. I will say some of the stuff is kind of noisy, but that's the thing. So from a quantitative data available to be published, nobody seems to be that enthused to share. Although we have had some interesting discussions where people are saying, hey, I think I see something here, which is not hard data. It could be just, I'm looking for reasons because now I've got this thing, some sort of confirmation bias.
Yeah.
But I think if you run an RSS, like hands down, just put it there, because the cost of one RSS tool failure.
Right.
And think about it, the longer we drill, the more rotating hours we have. So you want to drill your 4-miler. You're not going to do it on a motor probably because of weight on bit and, sliding issues and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it makes sense. Get these suckers out there or something like it, and make sure you got clean fluid.
Right. Awesome. Well, again, big shout out to ConocoPhillips, JagTech, Matt, you and your team obviously putting time in to get this thing published. Where can folks find the paper if they are interested in reading the full paper?
So the AAD website is the best place to look. However, I'm going to admit I should have checked to make sure it's actually up because sometimes there's a bit of a lag between the conference. So worst case scenario, just reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'll send it to you. AAD is great about sort of sharing and everything where they prefer you pull it from their website, but we can share it on our website. We can we can share it on LinkedIn. So very easy to get if you ask.
Perfect. Well, you know where to find us. As Matt said, check us out on LinkedIn. Make sure to visit the AES Fluids page. Lots of great content and information being put out there. We actually just did one last week, and by the time this airs, there might be another one, but we released some really neat videos, which again, I'm a hype guy. I love it. The marketing piece, videos, content. Matt, could you share kind of the idea on these short videos that the first one got released last week?
Yeah, so I think one, we wanted to update sort of our tagline. When we try and explain what we do, as much as it's, great products, great technology, at the end of the day, it's about using our drilling fluid technology and solutions to make the customer more efficient, right? And you see that in all their earnings reports, operational efficiency, capital efficiency. And so we thought, okay, let's make our tagline fluid-driven efficiency.
Yeah.
With the idea that fluids can influence that. And so we thought, from kicking it off, it would be cool to have videos that sort of illustrate that through different employees and different roles in the company that goes beyond just like, hey, we write a good mud program or what have you. And so it certainly wasn't exhaustive. We picked 6 different areas. We may do some more later, but just little 1-minute videos showing, the most recent one, in the lab. But there will be others coming, and so we hope you enjoy them as much as I think the team enjoyed making them and sort of going through the process. But I think hopefully it reminds our customers of the value we bring, and also kind of reminds our people what they bring to the table.
Absolutely. No, I think that was such a great initiative. And so, yeah, be sure to check them out. You can find the first one on LinkedIn, obviously YouTube as well, I'm sure on our YouTube channel. And for all the folks out there that continue to listen, appreciate all the support. If you have any ideas for a show, reach out to us on LinkedIn, or you can hit us up at the Flowline podcast at aesfluids.com. Again, lots of the best episodes come from folks asking good questions. So with that being said, everyone, be safe out there. And until next time, cheers.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please tune in next week for another exciting episode of The Flowline. And remember, may your returns always be full and your trips always smooth. Views expressed in this program belong to participants and not their employees. The program is for informational purposes only and cannot take the place of seeking professional advice. Copyright AES Drilling Fluids.